Take off my glasses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our May 2026 meetup of the Media Education Lab. My name is Wes Fryer, coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina, where I am a middle school classroom teacher. And our topic today is memes, warfare, and propaganda. And we are going to just jump right into it. I want to encourage you to use the chat throughout our session today. We are going to have an opportunity to pause the recording. And depending on how many folks we have, either go into some breakout rooms or we'll stay together. But it is really important, I think, to process all kinds of media and topics that we're talking about here in the Media Lab and in other places. And so that is going to be a important time, hopefully, where we'll get to turn off our microphones and everybody can have a chance to share. But I want you to feel free to use the chat if you want to tell folks where you are. If you've got a link to where you share on social media, and if you've seen war memes, feel free to use the chat. So thanks to Pam Morris, who is functioning as my assistant here and my co-host. I'm going to go ahead and drop this link into the chat. This is a link to a collaborative document that has links to all of our former slideshow, or all of our former sessions, including the slides. In fact, I think it's probably important enough, and maybe somebody can even reshare this, because when you join the Zoom later, it does not give you the chat messages that came up later. And there are a lot of links, more than usual, in the slides. And so there's a link to the slides. You can get to those from the previous link, wfryer.me/media club. That's just a shortened link. But please feel free to utilize this. I put at the top of this slideshow, I haven't done it before. This is licensed under a Creative Commons CC BY license. So please use this, share this. Hopefully this could be not only helpful for you today, but helpful for others that you are working with and that are in your life. There is a link here to an updated Google form, and I aspire to do more with some of our channels of where we share. So if you're willing to share where you share, please do, especially if you share on platforms that are open like Mastodon or Blue Sky or YouTube. It's possible for us to be able to create our own network and our own portals of websites. And I've been playing with that, and I'm going to continue to do that. And so just know that if you want to share, hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll have a little bit of a portal that will bring those things together so we can see what we're sharing, those of us that are sharing. We always start with announcements, and so I want to encourage you to follow the Media Education Lab. The best way is to sign up for the newsletter, and you can receive that on a weekly basis. Coming up on May 11th, we have a free webinar on media literacy in preschool, a case study from Croatia. And I anticipate there will be some more things posted here soon. We will have Media Ed Club meetings through the summer again, and the next one will be on June the 1st. And so that session is not posted here, but if you are not signed up, hopefully you're going to get those emails because you're here today, but you might be watching the recording. And we want to encourage you to not only come to the Media Ed Lab, which is on the first Monday of each month, but also many of the other wonderful events that are hosted. I want to give a special shout out today to our friends at Civics of Technology, especially Dan Krutka, who I got to know living in Oklahoma City. He's at the University of North Texas. He's one of the organizers of the Civics of Technology. They had a great conference I attended online last summer in August. They're going to have a free online showing of the AI documentary. And I did not get to see this here in Charlotte before it left our theaters. It wasn't here very long, but it's called Ghost in the Machine. It's free. It's on May 14th, 2026. You can go to civicsoftechnology.org and click their events tab. You can also use the link that I have there in slides to go directly to register. And it is going to take place, I think, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, wherever that is. So I want to begin a little bit differently today by sharing some reminders and warnings because the topics that we're going to talk about today are extremely important and relevant. But there are some issues around these that may be a little bit different than some of the topics we sometimes talk about. So I'll share a few reminders and warnings. Then I'm going to share a variety of US government memes and then I'm going to share some Iranian memes and then offer some thoughts on the question of so what? Why does this matter? And we'll not only be seeing image memes today, but we're also going to be seeing video memes. And again, I've got the links to all these directly in the slideshow. And if you happen to join us late, we can copy and paste the link to the slides. Maybe Pam or others can do that. And I just want to encourage you to utilize this with some caution. So let's talk about cautions. Number one, we all need to be careful what and with whom we share information and ideas. And I say that because I'm a current middle school classroom teacher. And I will tell you that these topics, this slideshow, these links, these are not things that I am talking with my middle school students about. I am absolutely trying to equip them with the skills and tools of digital literacy and media literacy. But these are topics that I would be careful in terms of the age of the student and the context and the situation. And so if you are a high school, a college, a graduate instructor, you're sharing this with some other kind of civic group or organization for adults. Um, it's always perilous when we are talking about fringe media, but this isn't even fringe media today. But I've done a lot of work with conspiracies, and if I share a video about somebody who thinks the moon landings were a hoax, right? It's always a danger because oh my gosh, my students are going to want to go watch more videos by that person. But I'm just going to give you that caution, and of course we're adults here, and it's up to you to decide what that context is going to be. I do have a screenshot of the wonderful book, if you haven't read it or listened to it, called Like War, The Weaponization of Social Media. This is Singer and Brookings' 2018 book that I actually listened to on Audible. The weaponization of social media and memetic warfare that we're going to talk about today is different in some ways, but it's also a continuation of things that we have seen before. As I said, I'll continue with these reminders and warnings. We are recording our session today. We share all of our sessions on the YouTube channel of the Media Education Lab. However, we will pause the recording for some breakout rooms, and I see we've got about 20 folks here in the room, which is fantastic. And so we'll have some time when it's not recorded to share, because even if you've been following the news, it is crazy to try to keep up, and it might not even be healthy to keep up with the news feed today. And so I think there's probably going to be some things here that maybe you haven't seen, or maybe you didn't know the background of. I certainly have learned a lot in just doing additional research for today. I want to remind us all that none of us are immune from propaganda, and we could probably substitute the word media from propaganda, because simply being exposed to media can not only have a powerful and transformative effect, it can even have a traumatic impact. I have a friend who was a couple years ahead of me at the Air Force Academy, and he did not knock down doors and carry a rifle into all kinds of places in Iraq and Fallujah, but his job as an intel officer was watching the video repeatedly over and over again of these tactical teams that were going in and killing people, and it had a very real effect on his mind. I am not going to be showing you video today that is graphically violent, except we are going to see some videos that the United States Department of Defense and Department of War, if you want to call it that, and the White House have shared of actual missile strikes and explosions. But none of us are immune from media, from propaganda. I also want to observe that different nation states may have different goals and audiences in what we can term like war, or the weaponization of social media. We never know exactly what someone's intention is, whether they are an individual or an organization or a nation state. But I think that's a good question to ask. And as you look at some of these examples I will share today, and I'll invite you to discuss, that's a great media literacy question. In addition to who created this, why do you think they created it? What do you think their goal might have been? And of course, tied to that is the audience. And I'll say that is one of the things that Matthew Galt, and I'll talk about him several times reference Angry Planet, which is his podcast, and then he writes for 404 Media. He points out that propaganda that we've seen in past military conflicts, in wars, has primarily been targeted on the soldiers and the sailors and the airmen and the Marines and the combatants. But we're seeing today are a variety of memes and media posts and propaganda that aren't just targeting quote unquote the troops, but they're targeting you and me. But they also might be targeting a different subgroup, even within the United States, as far as our electorate. We could hypothesize about that, but I think those are good questions to ask. And I'm just going to acknowledge there are many, many complex things happening with the topics and the media files that we're going to look at today. And I think that this is one of the biggest challenges with memes and memetic warfare specifically. There are lots and lots of inside, sometimes references or acronyms. Sometimes this is related to gaming culture, but it's all over the place. And so, again, I just want to caution everybody in terms of using this. I certainly am thankful for the opportunity we have within the Media Education Lab to engage with this content and to confront it and to wrestle with it and to interrogate it together. But I think we need to be very careful, especially if we teach younger students, how we do this and we address this. And we'll talk about it. So I want to recognize Brian Turnbaugh. He's in the yellow box there in the bottom left corner. In the summer of 2019, I had an opportunity to join Renee Hobbs and so many other wonderful educators on the campus there at the University of Rhode Island in Providence. And that's really where a project called Conspiracies and Culture Wars was born. I have been working on this as a media literacy inquiry project since 2019, and I've been teaching about conspiracy theories and the SIFT web literacy framework and lateral reading and good things like that really since 2020 for about 6 years at the middle school level primarily, but also with adult learners and graduate students as well. Let's jump into it. I want to share with you a number of different memes that are examples of memetic warfare. And again, I put the link to the slides here. You can go ahead and access this. This is starting at slide 10. We'll put the recording of this in the slide so the numbers will change a little bit. But these are dated. And so this is from the official White House Twitter or X account from March 18th, 2025. And in addition to sharing the Ghibli-style, cartoon version, comic version of a real photograph, I've also included a Gemini AI overview, which explains that this was a, quote, White House meme featuring Virginia Basora Gonzalez, and the AI image portrayed her, who she's 36, was 36 at the time, a Dominican national. She was arrested by ICE another time, and so this was posted by the White House of the United States. Let's fast forward to July of 2025, and this image that you see on the right is titled "Attention, Trump Didn't Come to Play. 6 months in, all gas, no brakes. The winning will continue. The deportations will continue. The memes will continue. The golden age will continue." And for those of you that might be listening to this, you need to watch the video because this is going to be very visually intensive today. But this is a picture of our 47th president with American flag and with an eagle and with money flying around. And I put a link to a Wired article from August 2025 that's titled, "The Trump Administration is Using Memes to Turn Mass Deportations into One Big Joke." Let's fast forward to July 23rd, 2025. Any of you who teach American history, the era of, quote, westward expansion, address the concept of manifest destiny, are likely familiar with this image. This is John Gast's 1872 painting, American Progress. And this was posted by the official Twitter X account of the United States Department of Homeland Security. And the title of this was A Heritage to be Proud of, a Homeland Worth Defending. And then it says American Progress, John Gast. And in addition to the original link, which these are all still available online to take a look at, I also included a link to an ArtNet article called How to Think About Homeland Security's Unhinged Art Posts. And again, we can conjecture about why these media files, these memes, these messages have been posted. I think that's a great question to tackle in your breakout room. But I will say, and this is something that many of the authors that we included in the recommended resources for this session would say, is these are absolutely intended to solicit a response, to elicit an emotional response, a feeling response. And if you're familiar with Mike Caulfield's SIFT web literacy framework, which I've been a fan of now for about 7 years, the first step in the SIFT web literacy framework is to stop, especially when you feel like someone might be pulling your strings or trying to get an emotional response, and then do some investigation before you share it and pass it on to others. Let's go to November 30th, 2025. This is the official Twitter X account of Pete Hegseth, the official Secretary of Defense of the United States. He refers to himself as the Secretary of War. And this was a meme using a Canadian authored character that many folks are familiar with, Franklin the Turtle. But this post says, for your Christmas wish list. And then there is a fictitious book that says a classic Franklin story, Franklin targets narco-terrorists. And it shows the cartoon character, children's character, Franklin, who is firing a shoulder-fired missile launcher at some boats that are below him as he is in what looks like to be a Huey helicopter floating over the water near the jungle. I've also included the AI overview of this, which relates facts about the incident, the backlash, both in terms of publisher condemnation, political criticism, and the official defense response. And I'll read that. The White House defended the underlying military actions, which Secretary Hegseth was referring to as legal and conducted in self-defense, though they did not directly endorse the meme, and President Trump later stated, quote, he wouldn't have wanted a second strike. Let's fast forward to March 12th, 2026. This is going to be the first video meme that I'm going to show you. And this is a meme that was shared on the White House official Twitter channel. Again, it's there. I've got the link. You can go see it. The only text here is undefeated, and then there are some details about it, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and play it for you. This comes from a podcast called Kill Switch, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second, but they played the meme there, and so I'm just playing an excerpt from 47 minutes and 3 seconds to 48 minutes and 54 seconds. We're just going to watch about 2 minutes of this.
So, to give the audience the rundown of what we just watched.
Yes, please.
It's footage from Wii Sports.
Yes.
And every time you're hearing like hole in one, strike, the Wii Sports footage is cutting to like that grainy AC or like that grainy like footage of a thermal cam of like a strike on an Iranian military target. Mixing, video game. It's funny because like I watch this and I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that you make if you are completely confident that everyone already agrees with you.
Right.
And you're not trying to win anybody over. You're just trying to entertain your base. Like this is not winning. This is not a hearts and minds campaign on the American home front from the White House. And like it's all like this. It's all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the voice that you heard there was Michael Galt, and I'm going to recommend to all of us that one of the ways we respond to this is to share trusted voices. There are so many different voices out and in the world, and there always have been, but we have more access to those voices than ever before. Some folks would argue we live in a very polluted and fractured media landscape, and so it's important to share trusted voices. And one of my trusted voices for a long time has been Matthew Gault and his partner in journalism, Jason Field. And they have the Angry Planet podcast. It used to be called War College. You can find it at angryplanetpod.com. And Jason is also an author on 404 Media. And so his March 27th, 2026 article, Iran is Winning the AI Slop Propaganda War, had the link to this YouTube video podcast, which is on the Kill Switch podcast called American AI Slop is No Longer Cutting Edge. Please do continue to put questions into the chat. I appreciate Pam sharing some links. We got a question from Adam. Have there yet been any academic work to see what effect these memes are having on various populations? And yes, Adam, there's definitely research on that. There is a link to a research journal article in the recommended resources here. And I think Pam has put one in there. I think this is the one I did. It's called Digital Defiance, Memetic Warfare, and Civic Resistance. And that was posted or published in the European Journal on Criminal Policy and Research on March 28th, 2025. The psychological impacts of this and the psychological sleight of hand of using AI in these ways is extremely powerful and important, and I think needs to be a part of our media literacy education. So what I'd like to share now, did I just go back in time? Yeah, I did, because that was... You crossed the ocean just... No. Okay, I'm going to go to Iran. So many of us... I don't know what you listen to. I don't know. I'm not sure what media universe you inhabit because we can't take it for granted. But I have certainly heard discussion and seen some references to the use of Lego, specifically by either the nation state of Iran or individuals acting on behalf of the nation of Iran. And so what I'm about to show you is an example of Iranian memetic warfare. And this is one that was posted again in March. I'm kind of following this sort of timeline in terms of sharing these with you. Let's take a look at it. You crossed the ocean just to find your grave. Sacrificed your own boys for a lie. Listen. Yeah. Yeah. Make America great again. Yo, Tails, this shit crazy. Yeah, make America great again now. We will see what happens, yeah. Watch this. Sacred defense, we protecting the soil. While you sacrifice soldiers to pay for your spoil. You once who ran the globe, sitting on your throne. Now we turning every base into a bed of stone. It's a slaughterhouse, a trap you couldn't see. Welcome to the graveyard of your vanity. The secrets are leaking. The pressure is rising. We locked on the target, and now you are hiding. LOSC, yeah, we spelling at your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a bucket while you shaking in your sweet. LOSC, taste the ash of defeat. LOSC, yeah, we spelling at your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a bucket while you shaking in your sweet. LOSC, taste the ash of defeat. Swag is fighting in your
suit, hiding Epstein's ghost. You sent your boys to die on the bloody coast. Not a revenge for the leader's blood is purely mine. Every drop of his blood is a missile on the line. You thought you took him out, thought the fire was dead, but another common day is standing ahead. Yeah, you strike one down, we just shatter your brain. We put another in the leg, common day again. The secrets are leaking.
Okay, I'm going to stop it. I just wanted to show an excerpt of that. This comes from a group that call themselves Explosive Media, and on Twitter X, their channel is Explosive Media with an extra A. It's interesting to me how reels and video shorts seem to have taken the internet by storm. I don't have the citation in front of me, but I have read that more than 3/4 of the content shared online now is video, and a huge amount of that is short form video content. In addition to linking to the direct video, I showed you a playback from the Kill Switch podcast, those last two videos. This is going to be from the TikTok channel of Explosive Media, but I'm also including two recent articles from the BBC and from Al Jazeera. From the BBC on April 11th, their article, "We Spoke to the Man Making Viral Lego AI Style Videos for Iran. Experts Say It's Powerful Propaganda." And then the Al Jazeera article, which was on April 17th, "Vengeance for All, How Iran's Videos Won the Narrative War Against Trump." And I need to say, like, I am not on Twitter X hardly at all anymore. For me, it became a dumpster fire. I love to use Twitter for so many years. I connected to so many educators. But there are a lot of folks that are still using Twitter, and Michael Galt, who is with 404 Media and Angry Planet, is one of those. And he says in that podcast with Kill Switch, the Kill Switch podcast, that he's really trained his algorithm to be attuned to memetic warfare and propaganda and a lot of these things. And I should have put this in the caution at the beginning. Be careful when you are on social media training the algorithms, maybe even without your conscious decision. If you watch these, if you play them, if you're logged in, then cookies are going to be set and watch histories are going to be established. And so it's possible that you could certainly influence, but if not corrupt, your own watch history and your own channel. And so one of the things that I had to do back in 2019, when Brian Turnbaugh and I were diving into conspiracy theory and how are we going to teach about this and what could we do, I had to create a separate account, a separate Gmail account in order to watch this content. And I also, we both became aware that if we ask students to look for this content, we've got to be so careful because, again, we train the algorithm in a variety of ways, but when we click on stuff, we watch stuff, we train the algorithm. So this is going to be actually a kind of a 2.0 version of a video originally made by some either Iranian state actors or a group working for Iran in the current war with the United States. Not Explosive Media, but this is the Explosive Media version. This is 1 minute and 49 seconds. And I want you to see how many different references you are going to pick up. I will note, as many critics do, that the Epstein files are in so many of these things. And I guess I'll just say this as a spoiler too. The Iranian government is targeting, well, I can't say the Iranian government, the authors of this media, who may or may not, we don't know how old they are, we don't even know what tools they use, but they are creating this content. People in the United States, users of social media, are the targets of this, and I probably just need to play it, so here we go. This is the link to the version on TikTok. So that ends the examples of memes and memetic warfare that I want to share with you today. And I'm going to share a couple other articles and thoughts, one more video, but it's an analysis video, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms. One of the resources that I provided in our recommended resources for this webinar is from Dr. Pamela Rutledge. And this is an article that she posted in Psychology Today. And one of the things, this was in April 1st of this year, 2026, one of the things she observes is that, quote, a well-constructed meme triggers emotion, tapping into what we already know in new ways. We expect memes to truncate information, to provoke a response. They feel innocuous, but they are insidiously powerful. Humor lowers defenses, suspends critical analysis, and enhances social bonding. Heroic and dominance cues make the message feel morally right, reinforcing social identity and heightening perceptions of us versus them. The fastest spreading content is optimized to activate our emotions, not for accuracy, proportion, or moral weight. The name of her article is We're Being Played Through Propaganda, Memes, and War. Meme-driven narratives use cultural cues to trigger emotion and sell war. And so I want to share this resource with you. One of the first webinars, I think, that we did together when I started to be able to facilitate these for the Media Education Lab was about Notebook LM. It is an AI tool that Google Labs developed. And it is absolutely one of the most useful and powerful artificial intelligence platforms that I personally use for my own learning and for my work that I do both professionally as a teacher and outside in different things that I'm involved in. And so what Notebook LM allows you to do is to build a digital library that is prioritized in the analysis, and then not only the analysis that you can do through a chat interface, but also through the studio, which allows you to create a variety of different media products. And so I have since added a few more. I think there were originally 10 links on our recommended media list for this webinar. I've put a couple new articles in there, but I went ahead and created 3 things, and I've given you the links to those. A 4.5-minute video that I am going to show you right now, slides to summarize these ideas, and then a 35-minute audio deep dive, which I actually listened to just kind of help me process the ideas within these different articles and videos and research documents. So what I'm going to play now is a video. This is a summary. I posted this on our Media Education Lab YouTube channel, and to give it some context, I gave it about a 40-second introduction. I don't know whether you'll be impressed or not, but I am impressed at the quality of this analysis and the value of this. So let's take a look at this, and then we're going to go into some breakout rooms. Wait, this is a slide first, I guess. There were 10 slides, and I think I picked several of them. This is one of the slides that synthesizes these articles, and it talks about what it is termed a memetic bypass, the typical critical analysis wall that we would have to do some fact checking, to verify facts, to check sources. All of that can be bypassed by a meme for which we feel affinity, nostalgia. One of the things that Matthew Galt talks about in that podcast on the kill switch is that Lego is a very well-known brand worldwide. And so in choosing a theme, like not everybody knows about Franklin the Turtle necessarily or Teletubbies, but Lego is. And also somehow when we watch the videos of a Lego AI, it maybe people don't have the same kind of visceral response if somebody was trying to create something that looked like real people. One of the really good points that he says in this is we've been concerned for a long time that deep fakes and AI video was going to really trick people and then, have a real dramatic effect, like on an election result or something. In this case, everyone acknowledges that I've seen these are AI created, but the mind hack is what is happening. And I mean, we're an example of it today. We're sitting here in a webinar, looking at these memes and talking about them. And many of you may have had an emotional response to some of the things that you have seen. So let's take a look at this video. This is, again, from Notebook LM. Hi everyone, my name is Wes Fryer, and I am going to share with you a video for the Media Ed Club of the Media Education Lab, created for our May 4th, 2026 webinar meeting entitled Memes, Warfare, and Propaganda. And this is a video created with the AI tool Notebook LM from a notebook that includes all of the recommended resources for this webinar. And what I asked Notebook LM to do in its studio was to create a short video that would summarize some of the key themes and takeaways from this collection of resources related to memetic warfare, especially as they apply to media literacy educators. So here we go.
Think about the internet's native language, the endless rapid-fire scroll of inside jokes, reaction faces, and absurd pop culture mashups. It is fast, it is global, and mostly it feels completely harmless. But state actors have assumed an online fighting posture. They are integrating the ironic, pop culture-steeped aesthetics of the message board into official government feeds to sell hardline political action. In this post from the official White House X account, the president is flanked by eagles, an American flag, and a cloud of flying cash. The caption promises that the winning and the deportations will continue. Policy is being packaged as an internet victory lap. Other official accounts apply viral video trends to human displacement. By framing footage of shackled wrists and rattling chains as an ASMR deportation flight, the state reframes the physical reality of forced removal into an edgy, consumable joke. Foreign adversaries are following the same playbook. Iranian state media bypasses traditional diplomatic channels by using brightly colored children's characters, or Lego figures, to openly mock American leaders and push state propaganda. When governments adopt the grammar of irony, the meme functions as a digital weapon. The struggle for power has moved from physical geography into the shared mood of the internet. To understand why this works, we have to look at how we process information. Memes rely on fast, associative emotional processing. They hit our brains' fast circuits before our slower, critical thinking skills can evaluate the facts. Seeing a childhood cartoon or laughing at a clever punchline lowers your defenses. It creates a feeling of social bonding that sneaks a political payload right past your logical filters. This neurological bypass allows states to launder violence. Official accounts splice real missile strike footage with fast-paced cuts from video games or superhero films. The gamification of combat masks the human cost. By reducing the physical devastation of a bomb dropping on a city to a hyper-masculine sizzle reel, war is converted into consequence-free play. This sanitization also applies to domestic history. This Homeland Security post features the 1872 painting American Progress, celebrating a homeland worth defending. Using this image of a floating blonde figure leading pioneers westward depicts the displacement of Native Americans as peaceful, divinely mandated destiny. Wrapping state-sanctioned exclusion and military force in nostalgia and irony provides plausible deniability. Cruelty is disguised as entertainment, making extreme political actions harder to challenge. This kind of aesthetic manipulation thrives in a vast global information sphere that is flooded by organized state disinformation campaigns. A primary driver is the Russian doctrine of maskirovka. It relies on AI-generated fakes, coordinated troll farms, and proxy media manufacturing false realities, designed to overwhelm and exhaust public perception. But the digital battlefield has spawned a countermovement. Grassroots civic resistance has emerged in the form of the North Atlantic Fella Organization, or NAFO, of absurd memes. These coordinated swarms reach disengaged audiences and flip the dynamics of online debate. By forcing state propagandists to defend narratives against a tide of absurdity, NAFO strips authority from Russian falsehoods more efficiently than a traditional fact-check. Memetic warfare serves as a contested, multimodal battlefield where citizens and governments compete to define reality. We face a critical problem. If war and deportation look exactly like entertainment, the foundations of democratic discourse begin to erode. Our educational solutions are struggling to keep up. Logical fact-checking often fails in this environment because you cannot fact-check a feeling. Memes are resistant to facts. They do not argue with data. They operate purely on shared cultural coding, shared emotional grievances, and aesthetic vibes. The mandate for modern media literacy has changed. We must teach learners how to decode these multimodal artifacts, giving them the tools to recognize when childhood nostalgia is being weaponized to sell them a policy. Ultimately, the most reliable defense against a cognitive hijack is cultural awareness. We have to learn to recognize the moment when the phrase, "it's just a joke," is being used as a shield for dehumanization.
And that point about it's just a joke. I hear that almost every day, every week, certainly here in middle school. And, there's stuff it's not a joke. We don't joke about that. So suggestions as strategies for educators, what is it that we need to do? I want to go to breakout rooms. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share here. I'm going to open up breakout rooms and I'm going to invite you to go ahead and go to a breakout room. I am going to pause our recording, hopefully. And the breakout rooms will not be recorded. So please go ahead and go to your breakout room. We'll give you about 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. If you want to keep your camera off, that is absolutely fine. We just have about 7 more minutes to kind of wrap up a little bit and give folks who have stuck around with us a chance to share a little bit of either things that were shared in your breakout room or questions, comments that you have. If you want to use your hand to raise your hand, feel free. Or if you just want to grab the mic, we are a smaller group. We always have folks drop off after we go to the breakout rooms, but that's fine. One of the things I pointed out at the end of our breakout room was that with the use of gaming by some of these US channels, I think the creators are aging millennials because they're using a Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which is like 17 years old, and then Wii Sports. And so the folks they may be targeting, quote unquote, with those may be that same aging demographic versus like the young kids now, the teens, the Fortnite players. Throw out some good questions. If you want to put something into the chat, feel free to.
Would you like a synopsis of our group?
You bet, please. That'd be wonderful.
So for me, just the awareness of the insidious use of humor to sneak things in was very enlightening. And it's one of the defenses were just critical media, considering where the source is and that sort of thing. But one person mentioned older folks are a particularly target or audience in danger because they're out of school now. They might not have had media literacy training, and the challenge is how to reach them. And the thought was maybe public libraries could offer workshops on the topic because they're more likely to be active, yet they're not inoculated against the problem.
100%. Our topic in our March 2026 Media Ed Club meetup was media literacy for seniors. And I definitely think we need more media literacy everywhere, but it can't just be limited to class and, oh, now you're in 6th grade, so you're going to get this class, but hey, you won't later. I mean, it's something we all need, and it's a moving target as well. What other things were shared that you all could either summarize or give voice to from the breakout room? Go ahead, Adam. Yep. You have to unmute.
Here. You have to unmute in 2 places. We talked a bit about, I'm sorry, it took me a long time to get to reconnect here, so I may have missed something. But we talked a lot about the nature of the humor coming from, at least the way we perceive it, coming from certainly the Trump administration, and certainly from the right, as being perhaps less empathetic, more critical of individuals. I phrased it as punching down. There's a lot of punching down that goes on, versus a more ironic, somehow broader perspective to so isn't a word, humor that you get from the left in our view. And that maybe it may be a utterly biased view, but there does seem to be something about that. I can't speak for the Iranians and their
Yeah.
particular sense of humor.
And this may be a good strategy to keep in mind. One of my friends who teaches our eighth grade global issues, it's super challenging to teach a global issues class now and current events, right? But a lot of times he will present the news and then students will then engage and discuss. They do like a Socratic dialogue. But one of the things I tried to do today was not interject a lot of my opinions or my conjecture, but really to present what is being shared and then offer up questions for discussion. And that might be something that, because I think engaging with the values debate here is really important. I think it really is. And because these messages are 100% laden with messages that relate to values and what people think and what they believe and what they want to see either done or not done. Let's see if we can get one more person, then I'll wrap us up with a couple of closing slides. Anybody else want to toss out a tough question there or just share something else?
I'm curious if you have any resources that you use when you're talking to people about looking at an image or video content and trying to determine whether it is real or not. For example, you mentioned stop and thinking about why you're triggered emotionally and that as
Right.
being part of but any other resources, whether it's going to another site like Snopes or, talking to other people, that kind of thing.
For sure. That's a nice segue. So I'll we'll segue here to the conclusion because SIFT is going to be a big part of that. And also I'm going to answer that on another slide here. These are quotations from the same Psychology Today article by Dr. Rutledge. When war is indistinguishable from entertainment, democracy has a problem no algorithm will fix. Memes are no longer fleeting internet jokes. They are the soft power of modern warfare. As educators, our task is not to ban the medium, but to arm our students with the psychological resilience to read the code, recognize the manipulation, and defend the truth. This is a link to a series of lessons in a unit I call Fruit Loop Conspiracy Theories. And as I've got my little COVID mask on, I started doing this in 2020. But SIFT is Mike Caulfield's web literacy framework to stop, investigate the source, find trusted coverage, and then trace to the original, which is what you were talking about. One of the things I share with students and adults as well is that we really cannot definitively, in all cases, say whether something was AI created or not. The AI is getting better and better. But again, the interesting thing about memetic warfare that we're talking about here is it's really not debated on whether it's AI created. It's the psychological effect and impact. So I think that, no surprise, media literacy education and specifically teaching frameworks like SIFT is one way to respond. I also think that we should share trusted voices, and I've shared Angry Planet as one of my trusted voices. Michael Galt's April 26th post is called Guard Your Heart Against What You Want to Believe. He does post some things that require a paid subscription, and so his post from January 16th, Online Culture is the Whole Culture, was also excellent. But that's basically it. I've got to go teach my class. So I want to thank you all for attending. I hope that you will come back. I hope you will share this video, and I hope that we will together rise to the challenge because we live in a challenging environment. But the good thing is we're together and we get to connect and we get to share ideas and collaborate. And that's what the Media Education Lab is all about. So thanks to the Media Education Lab. Thanks to you for taking time to be here. And we look forward to seeing you again soon on a webinar with the Media Education Lab, or maybe in person. Let's go to Providence. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.